Hey guys, I'm back. Can you put this on? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, guys, it's been a long time. I know, but I'm back. So honestly, as you can probably hear, I'm definitely not completely, like 120% myself, but I'm like starting to get it back a little bit. I know that a lot of people have been wondering what happened to me, and I've really told anyone. Today we're going to share that testimony. So before I start, I just want to say that this was definitely put on my heart by God. I don't know who's going through something or who needs to hear this, but whatever you're going through right now is just temporary, and that's what I had to remind myself. That's what I was reminded of the whole time everything happened. It's all temporary. You'll get through it. But anyways, let's get into the story. On August 26th, I went to the gym. I was running, and I was running a lap around the gym to warm up, basically, like I usually do. And at this point, it was just me and my brother. My dad was on his way because he was going to work us out. I remember I was running a lap, and while I was running a lap, I remember everything around me got so loud and chaotic. As I was walking, trying to sit down, it was like curved. I sat down, and at first, like, I couldn't tell what was wrong with me. Like, there was no explanation for some of the things that were happening at this moment, like me not being able to control when or where I threw up. And I wasn't able to make it to the bathroom because I was so weak at this point. Yeah, it was just a lot of things I noticed. To slur when I was talking to my mom. I was talking to her on the phone. I was on the phone with her because my dad had called her when he got there. To this day, I still can't really articulate like what happened all the way. My brother had called my dad, who was on his way, and let him know something was wrong. And I was telling him, like, I'm fine. I'm sure I'll feel better in a couple of minutes or whatever. Yada. My brother, he saved my life that day. And honestly, yeah. When my dad got there, he brought me some food to snack on. He thought that would help. A couple of minutes later, I just started throwing up again. My body was just rejecting any food or any drink. We left. My dad had to help me walk out of the Y. I wasn't able to really walk by myself at all. Like, I wasn't strong enough to withhold my body weight. We went to urgent care in Okemos. I really struggled to sit down, I can't lie. I was like plopping everywhere. I was definitely plopping, and it was hard to sit down because of that. Shortly after, the doctors called me. First of all, I didn't even know that doctors ask you so much questions. Like, I've never thought about it that way. This moment, like, I'm like, girl, why are you asking me questions? Like, something is wrong. They were asking me so many questions. And honestly, this is when it got a little bad for me. So they were asking me questions, and as I was answering their voice began to slur. They noticed that. So we went into a room. I was throwing up even more. Like, I couldn't even control it. I was throwing up to a point where I was dry heaving. And I think that was like really scary because at that point, like, I was like, I'm not throwing up nothing. Like, what is happening? So I ended up getting a room there, and they were running tests, doing what doctors do. They didn't find nothing that was wrong with me. So they were going to send me back home. So when they were going to send me back home, they realized that they couldn't because at this point, I wasn't able to walk at all. Like, I had no strength. Like, walking wasn't even a question. Like, I was not about to get up and go anywhere. Yeah, I don't even remember them trying to send me home, to be honest. The whole night is just a big blur. After hours of being there, literally hours of tests, of a whole bunch of stuff, basically. Got admitted to the hospital. I got admitted by ambulance too. I don't remember really riding in the ambulance. Everything was, I don't really remember nothing. I remember spurs of stuff. I remember going into the hospital. At this point, I was not talking at all. And so they weren't able to ask me questions because I couldn't talk. I remember laying in a bed, and I was so uncomfortable. Like, I was ready to go to sleep. Like, I couldn't Like, I was in pain. I was in so much pain. Like, I was uncomfortable, to say the most. When I was in the hospital, when I first got into the hospital, I was uncomfortable. So after I got admitted, and they took me up. So this is when my memory starts to like really like it's black in certain aspects. But I remember running through tests again, and I remember going into surgery. So I remember seeing the white lights and everything. They had to roll me in surgery, and I remember them putting a mask on my face and giving me something, and then I was out. I didn't remember this, but I was on a ventilator and I was unconscious for 2 days after the surgery. And that was definitely hard for my mom and dad, because them telling me that was like, wow, like, what? I was what? For what? So I started to gain my consciousness back about, I would say, it has to be like almost a week after surgery, like where I really was like remembering stuff. I remember going down. First of all, I was confused. I was really confused. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't eat. I couldn't really do anything. I remembered how to do it. I just couldn't. Like, physically, I couldn't do it. So I remember being rolled down, and I only remember one person. So we're going to talk about her because I love her. And I'm not going to say her name, but she knows who she is if she's watching. I remember her wheeling me down, and I really don't even remember who else was wheeling me down, because that's how out of it I was. She asked me if I was okay. I just nodded, and I could see like her bun and like her skin color, her complexion, and I couldn't really see her face, but I could see like blurs. Like, it's like I was like a person who needed glasses. So that's like the first moment that I remember. And when I woke up. So after that, I remember just days of having to have my bed shake because I couldn't cough, having to get suction because I also couldn't cough. My mom had to tell me to swallow because I wasn't swallowing because it was hard to swallow. There was a lot of stuff I couldn't do. Like, when I woke up, I remember having these therapies, and I was doing every therapy. Occupational, which is like your day-to-day things, like, I don't know, drinking water, whatever, taking a shower, that's occupational therapy. I bet you didn't know that. Like, physical therapy and speech therapy, and I remember being so weak that it was hard for me to do all these things. It would make me so tired because I was super weak. As the days went on, it got easier and it got better for sure. But the days, they just went by. I remember the first time I had food. I had to eat in front of this lady because she had to make sure my swallow was strong enough to consume food without aspirating. I was happy because obviously, like, I'm getting to eat food. But I think that was kind of hard for me because, like, having to relearn everything is not, as a 17-year-old, it's hard to relearn how to do everything, like stuff that you don't think about, like drinking and eating and whatever. Like, it's just, I think, relearning that. Now that I look back, 'cause then I didn't care, but now as I look back, like, those things are like stuff that I would never have thought about. And now I think about everything. I was on thickened liquids because my swallow wasn't strong enough to have regular drinks. And I had to drink only what they gave me, and it had to be thickened. So they would put something in it to make it a little thicker, so I could swallow it right correctly, whatever. That was so nasty. It tastes the same, but it was nasty after a while. So I remember crying one day to my mom because I was like I couldn't, it made me angry almost. Like, I wasn't able to do things like I wanted to. I wasn't able to talk like how I wanted to, eat, sleep, drink, everything. None of that was happening for me. So it made me frustrated because, like, I wasn't able to do those things, and I knew I could. I knew how to, but I was too weak to actually do them. One day I was crying about this to my mom, and I'm like, like, Mom, like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is stressful, obviously. Like, you wouldn't want to imagine anyone having to go through that at all. I'm about to cry now. So as I was crying, one of my nurse techs came in, and this was the girl I liked, and I remember her saying to me that I would be okay, and this was just temporary, and basically they had been telling me to like be patient with myself, and I was struggling. Like, that was a hard day for me. Like, it just was. I think the night maybe that she saw me crying, she later told me that after that day she went home and prayed for me, and this touched my heart, definitely. I'm gonna cry again. I think this definitely touched me because when you're in your lowest and people meet you, like, it's something that I think people meeting you at your lowest. Oh my God. I think people meeting at your lowest and still being able to care for you like nothing is wrong is so important. And in that, it showed me purpose outside of basketball because I felt like that's what I was known for. And I felt like outside of basketball, like I didn't really have a testimony outside of things I've been through basketball. And so see that someone cared and they never seen me pick up a basketball, it really touched me and changed me. So I think later that day, my grandma came up to the hospital and she was telling us her story basically. And let me tell you, this girl has a testimony too. I don't want to share it, but she does. And at this point in time, I remember I only could laugh or cry. And I remember just listening to her because that's all I could do really. And I was just amazed to see someone walk around with grace like that, and to have a story like that. It's just amazing. Her testimony was definitely inspiring to me, and it touched me. Testimony was definitely inspiring because I know I couldn't go through anything like that, and I'm so grateful that even though this was a challenging situation, I was able to get through it. And she told me that I was going to be fine because of what she had been through. And yeah, I think her telling me this, like, it lit a fire in me. And that fire stayed burning until I was out of the hospital or rehab, of everything. And I think it was just a really remarkable reminder that I will be okay. And I don't know, in that moment, I felt like no one could relate to me. I couldn't talk to anyone about what I was going through. I couldn't talk about anything I was going through to anybody because they wouldn't relate or really understand. And I could talk to her, so that felt good to know that someone has been through what I've been through. And I think that this is why I love her so much, because I think that God definitely made her one of my nurses for a reason. And I'm so thankful for her. I'm thankful that she was able to share her story with me in a time that, being able to relate to someone in the lowest moments of my life is something that she had gone through, so she was able to relate to me, and I think that touched me in ways that are indescribable, and I can't even articulate words to how much that meant to me, because I think that God put her in my life for a reason, because if this situation hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't know her, and I wouldn't know her testimony and what she's been through, and all of it is just, she's just so important. And my mom likes to call her my angel. Because she really is. She's literally a walking angel, for real. I carry that story with me through everything. And I knew that if she was okay, I was going to be alright. I was going to be just fine. And I think that was my reminder that I'll be okay. People that, have saw me, thriving in whatever I'm doing, they came up to the hospital and see me in totally different shape. And I think that changed a lot of people, because they saw me in moments where I wasn't able to do that, and I wasn't able to, be that person I am. When people came in and I couldn't talk, like, I would just cry because it was like, to think that they saw me as this person and then I'm a completely different person now. Physically, like, I'm in a bed and you're coming to visit me. And it's just definitely different. And I cried because, like, words couldn't explain how I felt. And I wasn't able to talk. So crying was, like, I don't know. It's, like, the only way I can show my love for you. So, like, I would cry to a point where, like, I was too much crying because I'm not a crier. And I was like, it got to a point where, like, certain people couldn't come see me because I would just cry. And, like, the more closer I was to that person before this happened, the more I would cry. And I remember, just crying. Like, crying was, like, I don't know. I just had to cry. But that's another thing. Make sure that people know how much you care for them, because that's super important. And I didn't know how much I meant to certain people, and when I saw them and I was in this predicament, it was just amazing. It made me appreciate everybody that I have in my life. I was at Sparrow for about 2 weeks. I made some amazing memories with amazing people. My mom was capturing everything. So, documentary coming soon. But yeah, she was capturing everything, and it got to a point where it didn't really feel like a hospital. Like, it felt like a second home. And it felt like a sleepover, really. Like, it really did not feel like a hospital. I love the nights because, like I told y'all, this girl, I'm going to keep talking about her because she was so important to this whole process. This girl I told y'all about, my angel. This is another reason why I like her so much, because I'm going to say this, as a black girl, like, you care about things that other people don't think about. Like, you care about your nails, your hair, your lip gloss. Like, there's so many things that we may think about that you won't. And I remember her asking me, like, I remember her doing my hair and my nails and all that in the hospital. I was in the hospital on a bed, and she was treating me like I was her sister or something. Like, it was touching for sure. But that was definitely important. That's made it feel like a more homier vibe. And I just loved all the people there. I got into rehab, and I remember the first night, I cried a little bit because I'm like, this is nothing like it wasn't hard, but it was like, it's nothing like what I've been getting. Like, it's totally different. Like, it was hard for me at first, and I also think it was hard because I really didn't want to be there. Like, I didn't want to leave home at all. I think my mind was set on Sparrow. Like, I enjoyed being there, and I think I was expecting that to happen when I got to marriage treatment. But once I got over that, they were nice. I loved them too. They were awesome. And I met some amazing people there as well. But yeah, the first night it was hard for me, but as, like, days kept going, I noticed I was getting better, and I kept thriving and kept it going, kept it moving. And at this point, I was, like, ready to be healed so I can go home. Even though I was being patient in that whole process, like, at this point, I was like, no, I'm gonna get better so I can go home and stay right here in my bed. There I noticed I was spending a lot more time by myself, and I had time to read a lot and mature, really, because what I went through was so traumatic, and I definitely grew from it. Definitely. Like, how can you go through something like this and not grow? Like, what? So, it's just like a small glimpse of my story, my testimony, and I just want to share because you never know when people need to hear things. I think this is definitely a time, and this is definitely a story to share, and I feel like there's never a right time. Like, if I wait, I'm gonna wait forever. So that's why I'm doing this, and I look crazy, but it's okay because whatever. And yeah, so I'm just thankful that God has been with me this whole thing. And as you guys see, I'm doing better. I'm doing a lot better. So whatever you're going through, just know that you'll get through it and you'll be fine. You'll probably be back, or even better. You'll probably be even better than you were before. And yeah, this story I hope touched your heart in ways that may help you. And I hope this story definitely finds the right crowd, because some people need to hear this and some people are curious. So yeah. But I love you guys. Thank you. And good night.